This is Van Electric Ghost, and we are live with Ashton Martin for the first time. We appreciate you coming on the show.
For sure. I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you so much.
So we're going to mention our sponsor. We're on Newsly, so after this is over, they'll take the video of this and convert it so you can listen to this podcast with Ashton Martin on Newsly. Just use the coupon code GHOST2021 to get 1 month free premium subscription so you can stop scrolling and keep listening. So check that out. Use coupon code GHOST2021, get 1 month free premium subscription. So, yeah, I'd just love to talk to artists. I've been doing this since 2016. And it's just a fun thing to be able to, during this whole COVID time, to be able to talk to people all over the world. And so we're happy that you're on the program.
For sure. No, I'm thankful just to be a part. And like I said, yes, times has definitely changed. So it's pretty innovative to have a way that we can all connect and as artists.
Now, the first thing I'm going to ask you is kind of one from the questions that you had like set to like ready to answer is how did you come up with your stage name of Ashton Martin?
Yeah, so Ashton is my actual name. Martin actually stands for motivating all relevant to inspire nations. And I was working with this producer when I was staying in Pensacola, and he actually nicknamed me the name, you know what I'm saying? And he said Asset, because I had a name that I was going on that was kind of like a family name / street name. And he was like, nah, we got to change that. You need something more, marketable, something more fly, fresh, you know what I'm saying? And he gave me the name, and I hated it at first. I really hated the name, but it caught on, and like people even in my hometown where I'm from, they started calling me that, and people that even know me by that, they started calling. So I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty catchy then. So I'm like, but for me, for it to mean something to me, it gotta mean something more. The play on the words is cool and everything, but you know what I'm saying, I feel like I needed something more. So I dwelled on the Martin part for so long. And then one day in a dream, it came to me, and I woke up and I was just like, motivating all relevant to inspire nations. I'm like, that's it, Ashton Martin, that's it. And that was pretty much how we started the stage name from there.
That's interesting because there's actually a British car company called Aston Martin. But
Yeah.
That was like a play on that.
Yeah, it was originally made to be a play on that, play on the car. But I hated that. You know what I'm saying? I hate yeah, exactly. I'm all about originality, and that was like just so unoriginal to me. So I like hated it. But then like once I came up with my own thing to it, I was like, yeah, that's me. That's me right there. And then
you found the acronym, you found the one that worked.
Yeah, for real.
So one of the things I always like to ask artists is like, when did you get into music? Like, what get into music and decide that you wanted to really be serious about it?
Seriously, I'll say about 2016, 2015 maybe. I'll say I use that as the serious. But I've always been around music, so I was kind of like born around a bunch of musicians, a bunch of artists. So I kind of always been around music, but when I took it serious for myself, I say like 2016, 2017 that's also when my wife began to manage me. And we actually took the steps to actually making a serious career out of what we were doing. At the time we were staying in Florida, and then we decided to pack up and move to Atlanta, and began to actually go full head first, you know what I'm saying? And even me, I stopped, I cut off a lot of things that I was doing at that time. This is myself from the place that I grew up with, the place that I know, the people that I knew, and put myself in a totally new environment just so I could focus fully on my music career. And from then on, that's when like career wise I started taking it serious. Now everything up to that point was definitely like a breeding process. I'll definitely say it was refining of skills, but as far as taking it serious, like something that I can actually do for a living, something that will actually turn into something, that's when I say it was definitely like at that point in my life.
That's awesome because I think I started around 2016 as the Ghost, and
Yeah, right.
I had been actually doing music since I was like 16 years old. But I actually decided like I'm gonna be a musician and actually sing my own stuff in 2016. I'm a keyboardist, so I never sang. I was always playing with other people. But so that's interesting. But one of the other things I always like to ask people is like, so when did you feel that you could write your own songs? Because there's a lot of people in music or work on production, like
Mhm.
as an artist. Because some people like they're studio musicians or they're in cover bands or they never think to actually write their own material or
Yeah.
become a producer. What made you want to do that?
I actually started writing. My gift was actually, I feel like my main gift that I was blessed with was the gift of writing, because that's where I began with. The irony of it is I was actually raised around a bunch of musicians. So I kind of already knew that side of music and, as far as people playing instruments, vocalists, other rappers, things of that nature. I was always around a lot of musicians, but I actually picked it up myself when it came to writing, because I started with poetry, and I had been
Hmm.
writing poetry since I was maybe about, before I even could, to be honest with you, it was so long ago I don't even remember it. It's people that my elders came and told me that I was doing it. I didn't even realize it. It
Wow,
was like,
wow,
when we present the poems in church that they have like
yeah,
during the holidays, like the Easter and stuff, you like, you used to write your own. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you used to write your own poem. I'm like, that's crazy. And I'll say, like, when I started to remember, it was around middle school. Middle school, I was kind of like finding my way, you know what I'm saying? Kind of figuring out who
yeah,
I really wanted to be, you in the school, so you trying to find your crew, your clique, you trying to find where you fit into things. I had a lot of people in my family, it was like a gap. So up until my generation, it was like a big gap in my family. Everybody was older than me. Besides, like, then I came to, a lot of my cousins came under me, and I didn't have like many siblings at the time. And so
uh,
I was really just kind of finding a way to fit in and finding a way to be accepted. It began with sports, but sports wasn't really like my top thing. I did it, but really I did sports just to get away and just to meet girls. That was like really the only thing for sports, to be honest
yeah,
with you.
yeah,
I never took it serious. But then when I noticed people used to freestyle a lot, and I began kind of getting into it, and I noticed like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. So I began writing, and then I began actually dealing with my life, like actually like putting what I was dealing with at the time into that, like as an outlet. So in school it became like an outlet. Through high school it was more of an outlet. It was also a way that I noticed that kind of kept me out of trouble because of everything that was going on. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a
mhm,
lot of us, we got caught up because it was just, we simply just had too much time on our hands.
okay.
So when
Yeah, you
when you
become a
had that time,
musician. Yeah, you can focus that time. That's the one thing like I loved about being a musician is like, I had to
yeah,
learn my instrument. Like and your voice is an instrument. So people
exactly,
don't understand that. But I'm a keyboardist, so I was just focusing on learning piano,
yeah.
and that's a big thing in itself. It's like if you get you go into jazz and it's like you won't be getting into trouble because you're trying to be like Miles Davis and stuff. You know,
Exactly. You
so
got a whole different mindset. You're not even focused on what everybody else is and getting
yeah,
caught up into it. So early on, I think that's what kind of really originally got me into writing, and becoming the actual creating original material. I actually used to write to mainstream songs. So whatever was hot at the time, I would take the instrumental and like
yeah,
write my own version of the song. That's kind of how I got
like
started.
a P Diddy type of thing. You start to like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it'd be actual songs, sometimes it was just like freestyles and just,
mm,
taking that and kind of learning. That's why I developed what we call flow. And saying, learning how to write, learning how to count your bars, learning how to structure actual songwriting. So yeah,
was that a
that's
lot different from when the poetry? Because I started as a poet too,
mhm.
and what I noticed is like I had all this poetry. When I started to convert it into lyrics, it changed significantly. Because when it
Yeah,
was in a poetic form, it wasn't really didn't have a melody, didn't have a beat on it, and then I would
yeah.
end up having to rewrite it to work in a song. So I'd have an idea, and it couldn't go like word for word into a song. It had to get restructured. Did you find that in like hip hop? Did you have to change your poetry to fit like the flow?
Yeah, I think no matter what, if you're writing like just original like poetry, it's definitely a different flow of it. But to be honest with you, for me, that was really the only thing I had to change. I just had to change the flow and the wording of how I would say certain things.
Hmm.
But really it was just the same as me writing. It comes from the same place. I'll say it like that. When I'm creating poetry, when I'm creating music, it comes from the same place. It's
Same
just a
ingredient.
different
Yeah,
flow.
yeah.
But I will say that being around music early on definitely helped me with that, because it wasn't a hard process for me to transition. You know what I'm saying? Of being around, I know how it's
Yeah.
supposed to sound. I know how the flow of music goes. So just taking that and turning it into actual songs, it wasn't that difficult, but it definitely was a process, and it definitely requires some tuning. You know what I'm saying? Getting
Did you
used to
find more?
writing in that
Yeah.
form.
Did you find more support since you came from a family of or people
Mhm.
around you were musicians? Did you get a lot of support when you wanted to go into it? Because there's some people like their family's like, "What are you doing? You're not gonna make money doing that. You know, what are you?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?" You didn't get that kind of resistance.
Um, it just certain people, you always gonna have certain people that's gonna look at you a certain type of way, no matter what. And I think in my family it was more of a surprise, because I kind of found it on my own way. Even though I came around and was raised around some musicians, I think for them they didn't expect me to do it, because I never
To
really
do
showed
it.
it when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? When I got older, that's when I began to actually showcase it and show it. And that's why, oh, you actually do this. I think they seen me writing early on, but they didn't know where it was gonna turn into. They had no idea where it was
Oh, I
gonna
didn't know
go.
he's gonna go music
Um,
into a music direction.
yeah, yeah. I always give a shout out to my mom. She's always been supportive. My grandmother was always supportive. My grandfather always was supportive as well. In any way that I went with it. You know, I think the only funny thing was my grandmother kind of like, she had a connotation of rap music. She didn't know that, she thought all rap music was just some way, but it was because of the generational gap. So she was like,
Yeah,
"That's what
yeah.
you." At first, she was like, "That's what you really want to do? That, like, that's what you want to do?" Like, oh my
But
gosh!
there's so
But
many
then when
different
she
forms.
actually, yeah, when she
Yeah,
listened to it, when she actually listened to it, and when I felt comfortable for her to listen to it, I say that she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm behind this 100%," and
well,
she
yeah,
began to
there's so many
support.
forms. You could go like the Grandmaster Flash. You could go back to the Message. You can go. There's
Yeah,
Run DMC. There's so many different forms. You can go to, you know, there's so many different aspects of it. You get a Kendrick
yeah,
Lamar. You get an Earl Sweatshirt. You get these guys. They come in different directions, and you can't just say it's a one thing. There's so many different subgenres of hip hop
yeah,
and rap that some people
for
might think
sure.
it's all like NWA or Ice T. Is like, no, it's not. It's like it's not all that. It's not any one
Yeah.
thing you can mention. There's so many different variations.
Yeah, I think that's what I always tell people too, because people outside of rap hip hop, they that's their usual connotation. They think it's all one way, and I'm like, nah, it's so many subgenres, and I feel like that's feel like as artists we need to fight for that as well, to have subgenres, just like every other genre has subgenres. We need subgenres too,
Yeah,
like the actual, like when you looking up in Spotify playlists, you should be able to look not just hip hop, but like the subgenres of hip hop, just like any genre, because it's so widespread now. It's so many different
yeah,
forms of it, and it seems every day it's another form. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to me. I love it. It's dope. But I feel like putting everybody in the
yeah. You get a
same
pigeonhole.
thing,
It's
it's
like,
a
yeah,
disservice. Like, yeah,
like I'm an
it's
electronic musician, right? But like I
yeah,
ain't a DJ, right? And
yeah,
and
exactly.
telling a keyboardist that you're a DJ, we kind of look at you and say, well, that's kind of offensive.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
Like my heroes are like Stevie Wonder and like Ray Charles, and not that
yeah,
a DJ ain't cool, but we have a different skill set, right? So
exactly.
a keyboard is totally different. So if you're like a gangster rapper or you're like a psychedelic rapper like De La Soul, it's not the
Yeah,
same thing. Like you go see De La Soul, ain't the same thing as like the NWA. It's not
exactly.
it's at all. It's like, so how could you put that in the same thing? How could you put that under the same category? It's kind of
Yeah,
hard to do.
man. And that's the one thing that it kind of, that I would say aggravates me about hip hop, like as far, and I'm like, it's come this far and we still don't have these simple things as far as like subgenre and not being recognized as different genres inside the genre. It's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
hey, it's cool. I love it
But
because
we
I feel like
invent
everybody
everything
kind of
though.
have their own lane. Yeah,
But you think about it, like, we invent everything. I'm a big like black music fan, and I would always
yeah,
tell
for
people
sure.
like rock comes from Lead Belly, Robert Johnson, those guys, right?
Yeah,
It didn't just come from Keith Richards and Elvis, right? It comes
exactly.
from like standing at the crossroads with a black blues guy from Delta, Mississippi. That's
Yeah,
what it is, right? And then from
for
that,
real.
you get everything else. You get the funk, you get the soul, you get the jazz, and now you get the hip hop because
Yep.
you guys sampled like funkadelic and Clinton and all those guys,
Yeah.
Bootsy. That's how the core of original hip hop comes out of, like sampling James Brown and Funkadelic.
Yep.
And that's
Yeah.
still black art funk. That's funk, which is based
Exactly.
on jazz and rock.
Yeah. No, I agree. We definitely set the tone. We always start, and it seems like it's common. It's a common thing when it comes to different genres. We'll start a genre, and then it's in our hands, kind of underground, and then
Yeah,
it gets taken away from like corporate
yeah.
wise, I guess,
And
whatever.
have Booms
And
and Elvises take over.
yeah, and it's sent in a direction. It was like, yeah, nah, this ain't even us anymore. It's time to move on to something
And
else.
what happened?
Start something else.
It's like that don't sound like Chuck Berry. Now it's like Elvis.
Yeah. Hey, it's an artist from St. Louis that I listen to. He's a hip hop, but it's crazy that we were talking about subgenre. He's a hip hop artist, but he's kind of like an alternative hip without what I guess would be his term is alternative hip hop. And his name is Smino. And he actually has a line that was like they don't give a chuck about no Berry, they rather listen to Elvis. And it was just like, I know a lot of people when they heard it, they probably didn't even, it's just kind of glossed over. But I'm like, dang, that was
I
real
got it.
right there.
I
That's a
got it.
real line. Like,
Yeah, I got
like,
that. I understand that totally.
yeah.
I'm vibing that all the time. But so when you started working on your own music, did you start
Mhm.
building like a whole collective around you? Did you find like-minded people where you just focused on like you, or did you start working with other artist collaborators?
It was stages. I actually started off, okay, I won't say I started off. I started off solo. But then I had my friends that was around me. And like I said, I had a lot of friends, a lot of family that did music around me as well. So originally, one of my best friends, he began as a producer. His brother was an artist as well. We looked up to his brother. He was the older brother, and I looked at him like my older brother even today. And they had a group entitled DLB, which stands for Dreadlock Boys. And so they kind of had a conglomerate. It was kind of like a collective, I'll say,
Mhm.
because even though he was a solo artist, they had artists that was like collective in the city, and they were making noise and doing anything in the city. So that's who we were looking at. So once me and my best friend, once he started rapping as well, I was like, yo, we need to come on, we need to put something together too. So it was kind of like our thing. We started GTE, and it was kind of like the sub of them. And then as we got older, we became like more accepted in what they had going on. So it was kind of like put together, and a lot of people that he had in the group kind of dropped off as well. So we put the GT and DLB together. So I was running with just me, him, and his older brother at the time. And once I moved away, life kind of happened. They had things going on in their life, so they kind of took a step back in a sense. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna just go solo then. So I started, moving by myself. That's when I started Ashton Martin. And then from there, it was just really just pushing solo for a good little moment. When we moved up to here, we began networking, meeting people. And then in 2019, we started the actual brand AME. And from there, we always wanted to have other people a part of it, but it was hard finding like-minded people, what I'm saying, on the same thing that we were
Yeah,
pushing for, on the same wave. And then also finding people that's just not around but like actually contributing in what you're doing.
yeah,
So in 2017, we did our first tour in the circuit, like just in around the area. It was like a southern circuit tour. So we kind of learned how to move as an actual, just together. I'll say like we learned to move together. So that's kind of like the building blocks. We had people around us that was also teaching us business, and people that we were looking up and learning business from as well at that time period. 2019, we did our first international tour. 2019 was also I forgot if it's 2019. I think it was 2019. It was also when we actually created the brand, made it the LLC, and so we took the steps of kind of building on what AME is. And we did our first international tour. On the last stop of the international tour, I was in Tallahassee. So I met I seen this dude, he was rapping. Now, mind you, I'm from Florida and I'm from North
mhm,
Florida. So you got to understand the climate of hip hop, where it's very street, it's very like, what I'm saying? So being in the club, Imagine me in the club, you know, it's just a normal thing. We're doing our thing. We're very standoffish people too. So everybody, even though they like it, they may not even give you your props. They may kind of just be like, that's what's up, but you're not with us. So I'm not really finna speak to you unless you speak to me type. That's kind of how Floridians are. So I had moved to Atlanta, so I had learned how to network because I had to learn how to network. Being from where I'm from, I'm not used to it. So I moved in Atlanta and seen how people were moving around. I'm like, oh, they actually go in these spots, and when they're performing, they don't just perform and leave. They stay and network with everybody, get everybody contacts, and everybody's so happy to, you know, connect with everybody. So we in the club. I don't know if I perform yet or whatever, but I'm just chilling and I see this white dude get on the stage. And mind you, now where we from, it's not even gonna be a bunch of white people in there, first of all. So that's one thing. That's a white dude coming stage on automatic kind of get positive and negative attention. He's gonna get some attention. And he gets up there and he actually likes ripping it. I'm like, oh yo, he's fire. Like he's dope. So I go and say something to him. And I was like, yo, your set was fire. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking much of it. I was just telling him, like, being real. Like, it wasn't, nah, I just wanted to connect with. It was just, like, I like what you did up there. That was dope. And I just told him that. Yeah. And come back around, come to find out, that actually set in with him, like, more than I even thought it did. And he stayed connected. We continue to chat back and forth. He had, I think, my project that I released that year, he actually bought merchandise from me. I'm like, oh, that's real. And then come to find out, he's not even from Tallahassee. He's kind of closer to where I'm from. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I pulled up on him. We vibed in. He had his studio, we still got, and you know, that's kind of where I met one Drew. So my wife was like, yo, we need to ask him, does he want to go on the last stretch with our tour? Because, you know what I'm saying, we was having trouble kind of finding people to go on tour with. So she reached out to him, asked him, presented the idea to him, and he was down. So he came and went with us to Canada, and like that one trip kind of like created a brotherly bond, you know what I'm saying? And from there it was like, you know, it really went without being said, as we was we was building with AME. He became a part of it, you know what I'm saying? And that was just, you know, even to this day, that's like my brother.
To have a collective like that, because I think it's like what you learn is like, you know, if you come to a club and you've got a collective and you've got like multiple acts that can be on stage, you have a more of a chance of success in booking that club, because you can say, hey, we can take over the club, right?
For sure.
And then you can, so it's not just one act, it's like 3 or 4 or 5, how many acts you got, you know?
Yeah. And people moving, everybody moving with a purpose, you know what I'm saying? You know, even though we're all our own individual selves, you got us moving as a unit with our purpose, with no ego in a way that's kind of like, nobody's trying to be the biggest dog here, you know what I'm saying? We all respect each other. And, you know, what else looks good when you walk in the venue? Having a videographer with you. That makes people grab your attention too. So
you're showing your business, you know, showing
exactly.
Showing, if you actually tell them like, hey, this is live streaming on Facebook. This is live streaming on Instagram. You know, it's going right to TikTok. It's going to Twitter. Like, if you show that you can actually connect, and like, this club's going to get on Twitch, it's going to get on Twitter, it's going to get on TikTok, then they're like, oh, that's cool. It's like, yeah, you're going to get people to know about my club. They're going to come and buy a drink. They're going to come and come to show. You know, you get the link. You start thinking of business. Because artists all the time is like, oh, we just want to talk about the work. But part of the work is actually getting booked, getting shows.
Facts. Yeah,
you know,
and getting your brand out, getting it, all these things is a part of it, because we artists, we're not gonna act like, nah, we ain't. No matter what, we may not do it for the money, but at the end of the day, you would love to get paid for what you love to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. And it's steps that comes with that. But referring back to what I was saying, like a videographer also looks good when you're moving with your team, and that goes back to the final edition of what we have right now with Niecy J. She's actually my wife's cousin, but they weren't close growing up like that. And I just noticed, like, bro, she's supporting like everything that I was doing. Every time that I post anything that I had coming out, she was supporting, going hard. I'm like, yo, I rock with her. You know what I'm saying? That's dope. And come to find out, she actually used to shoot videos with some people that was actually from, everybody's kind of from the same area. And she used to shoot videos, and she stopped. Like, because of dealing with artists, well, where we were from, it was becoming a hassle to her, and she was like, I'm done with it. And I was just like, man, I hate that. And you're so dope with it. Fast forward some years later, I did a song, and her father was a preacher, and I actually had him speak on the outro of the song. And she was like, I think I want to shoot the video. I kind of finagled it a little bit. I kind of was pushing, but I didn't shove. I was pushing though. I was like, time and time again, every once in a while, I was like, you might as
It's always the
well.
right time to get, to take somebody that has a skill set, and then you find the right people at the right time,
At the
and
right time.
you get the
Yeah.
engagement. Yeah, because
And it all just came together. She shot the video. We love working with her. We loved her as a person. And I think we was driving back one day to Atlanta, and I was just like, it just came my spirit. I was like, we need to ask Nisi if she would like to be a part of AME as well. And so it may have seemed random, but I just reached out like, yo, you want to be a part of what we got going? And yeah, without a doubt. So a lot of people, like all these people, they were like family to me beforehand. So even just transitioning to the brand, it wasn't even nothing like I'm initiating it. It was like, duh, like of course, like you know what I'm saying. And so just having one Drew, having my wife, and having us move with a purpose, it brought so much more to what we were already building, and we all move with such a purpose that it's a family. That's kind of how we operate. And I look at everybody that's a part as a family. So
that's kind of cool, because like in hip hop, like when hip hop came along, before that you had bands, you had like Stones and Beatles and Pink Floyd. They were all structured like bass players, drummers, and people was like, well, these hip hop, you got the DJ and you got the MC, whatever. But now with the collectors, you can have very interesting things happening where you've got rap collectors and they got like real musicians on stage, sometimes drummers and sax players and people playing guitar. So it's all becoming like cross genre. Like you can take country and rap, you can take rock and rap, punk and rap, new wave and rap. It's just crossing over. Jazz has been there the whole time. Funk was always there, but now it's crossing into other things, which I think as a musician myself, producer, I find that super interesting, because I'm a very much into funk and jazz. And when I see hip hop guys go in that direction, throwing a little Davis or Coltrane or something interesting, I'm like, yeah, I like that.
And it's dope that you say that. I feel like now, because the music and business is so blended now, you almost got to have like a mini label as an independent artist. You almost got to have the person that's helping you on that end, like all aspects of everything that you're doing, because now it's all in service. Back in the days, it used to be all about the labels. So you really didn't have to worry about these things. It was just like, okay, we'll let them handle that. We're just going to create the content. Y'all do what y'all do. Y'all get the video. Y'all push the content. Nowadays, it's kind of like on you, because you got to be hot before a label even going to look your way. You almost got to be successful. You know what I'm saying? So like, and as an independent artist, that's like really the smartest thing you can do, is build a team around you that works like almost a mini record label in a sense, or even not a record label, people that you trust to handle certain things that I wouldn't necessarily
make sure you got a trusted booker, that you got somebody doing your licensing, somebody doing your merch, and you're not getting ripped off where they're taking all the money. Like you're getting a good cut. Because like even the Beatles got ripped off on their merch. I don't know if people understand. Like they got like under 10 cents on the dollar on all their merch when they're during Help. And they didn't even know it because they were making so much money. Until Epstein finally kind of admitted to them, well, you got a really crappy deal. You're getting like nothing, but you're so big, it looks like a lot, but you could be making like 10 times what you should have been making. And that happened to the Beatles.
It don't matter.
It can happen to you.
Exactly. It don't really matter until like later on. People don't look at the long game. That's the issue. Like when you're hot, you got so much coming in, you ain't thinking about the little. You like, oh yeah, I don't care about that. We'll figure that out later. We hot right now. But like when it becomes that little stretch of like, okay, now we stretching it. We done burnt through a lot of this. Now stuff ain't adding. The math ain't mathing like it's supposed to math. So we need to figure out what's going on. Then come to find out, you've been getting shaded off everything.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, like owning the masters, which Prince was like railing about, and I think people understand why now.
Exactly.
But people at the time said, "Well, he's just being a real like complainer. He's a millionaire. What's he talking about?" But like what he said is really true. Like you
Yeah.
want to own that master because people don't realize if you want to get that ad, you better
Yeah.
own the master because you won't get any money.
You ain't getting nothing. Your kid, how your kids gonna eat when you're no longer doing what you're doing? How are your grandchildren? Did you have anything to leave down to your grandparents? Like always say, a good man leaves something for his children. I live by that mindset. It's kind of like I don't want to just have something for right now. I want to have something that my grandchildren can be like. I want my grandchildren like. Hopefully they ain't trying to kill me, but I want them to be waiting for me to die for real. Like they sitting up and like, boy, when you go ahead, granddaddy. We love you, but you need to go ahead and so we get this check. Like that's what I'm trying to leave.
That's like when you did the LLC, when you did Ashton Martin Entertainment. Is that the LLC? Is there something else?
Yeah. It's Ashton Martin Entertainment is the LLC. It also stands for Wait, Motivate, Educate. But on the business side, it's Ashton Martin Entertainment. Yeah, and that was the thought.
So
the whole thought process behind it was really just helping people that receive the help that I didn't get. Instead of having people having to tread it so hard and go through all the stuff I had to go through with somebody that can at least assist you in some way, shape, or form. If you really got a certain type of talent, if you really had a passion, and if if you line up with what we line up with, that's what I eventually want to get to. And really helping artists provide the help. And any artist, it's not even just a music artist, because we're a group of collectives of creatives that look to just simply motivate and inspire through what we do. So whatever we do, that's just what we do. And I want to continue to build on that and help, other independent artists. Or even if you want to be signed, I at least want to be that bridge that gets you to that point, or, kind of just be the bridge between, so.
I think it's really dope. It's kind of like probably not the best thing to say, but the fact is, like, I created, my whole thing with expansive sound and fandom, and it became this podcast, and with this collective of podcast guests, which I've had over like 160. I've done 750 episodes since 2016, and I've actually had festivals online for like 3 days with bands just taking the time, because I actually gave them some time. They all came and played for free for me on these 3-day festivals, and we kind of are supporting each other. We done them twice. We did one in 2020 and one in 2021 and 2022. We're going to schedule another one for 2023. I think I invited one, Drew. Everybody's whoever's been a guest is open invitation, because we're trying to create this kind of thing like the way Tyler did with Camp Flogna. Like he decided to take the idea of that collective, the Odd Future Collective, and go beyond it and create this, like, I'm gonna do a big concert with all the bands and stuff I think are cool, and it's multiple genres. He doesn't just have hip hop; he's got rock and punk, and so the idea with us, it was the same thing. We'd like take everything. Like if you're hip hop, if you're rock, if you're electronica, if you're punk, you're heavy metal, whatever. That's what we do. But
that's hard.
It's just trying to be expansive. The whole idea of expansive sound experiments, or even the Ghost, was we don't want to get pinned down, so we want to do like everything. So we talk to actors, we talk to musicians, we talk to podcasters, we talk to influencers, we just talk to anybody we think is cool.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. I love that. I love what you guys are doing too. You look at the big festivals, that's what it is anyways. You're not gonna go to the festival and hear one sound. Like you're getting a good mix of people. It's dope.
The kids today, they want to hear it. They'll listen to a punk band, they'll listen to a hip hop band, listen to a new wave band, a pop band.
Sure.
That's what it's about. It's like trying to just keep people in one lane. Say it's only punk rock, it's only trap, it's only trance. It's very limiting. I like it. You see the European festivals, they're wide open. It's like
for sure.
Totally wide open. You go to like anywhere in the UK, Germany, France, like they're super wide open. I'm like, I think you can learn from
that. That's facts though. Like that's one thing I did notice of being overseas. It's like it's totally different with the music. It's really just a higher appreciation of the arts when you go to these festivals, because you have so many different sounds, but the same appreciation for each sound. And I'm like, that's so dope, man.
If you think about the BBC, if you listen to the BBC, they got hip hop, they got rap, they got punk, they got like everything. World music. They don't just have like Tom Petty and Led Zepp all day long.
Yeah.
Like a US radio station, they don't just run that the whole day. Not that that's bad, but Like maybe you want something different.
Yeah, just a little bit for a second. Like, can I get a
It's a
break
little bit
from that?
different.
Yeah.
But so like your creative process, like how do you actually construct your music? Do you have a certain process, or like some people say, well, I'm going to do whatever serves the song. So I can't tell
Mhm.
you it's going to be the same thing. I could get inspired by many things, and I can't tell you each song is kind of like a thing. Do you have any kind of set something you could talk about how that works?
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's really like that. I get inspired by different things at different time. If I had to put it in any sense of saying like what's kind of like the most common way I'll create, is usually I got producers that I work so close with that they keep me well fed when it comes to production. So I'm usually having something in my something to be able to create off of, even if it's just a skeleton of what could be. And so anytime I get inspired, I'll look there first, or like anytime I'm just in a mode where I feel creativity, I'll kind of go through and see if something kind of catches me. And like usually when I find the production that catches me, I kind of go off the first emotion or the first feeling or the first word or the first whatever it is that I got from it, and I build from that. Because I noticed that's literally the best way of creating. The stuff that I get the most feedback from is usually like that. It's kind of like I felt some type of emotion, or I felt some type of word, or maybe this brought something from I dealt with today, or maybe even from my past, or maybe something that I'm looking towards in my future. And I kind of take that base and just create off of that, and try to keep it as raw as I can, but at the same
Yeah.
time still being quality. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like how I create and what I build off of.
I think as a writer and a producer, I've been writing since I was 17. I'm 55, and I would
Yeah.
say like when I was in my 20s, I would always be sitting there trying to like write like the Beatles and like be really tight. And
Yeah.
then I
The
found it. I'm like,
best.
but I was like, it's fine. I did some good stuff. But what I found as I get older, I like to do what I call stream of consciousness. So I'll just take this mic, take my multi track, get my board, and just start playing, and
Man,
I'll just
yeah.
put stuff down and I'll play for like an hour and then I'll go back and listen. And then whatever came out, I'll focus on what was like hidden. And then
Yeah.
what I find that today, I don't try to sit down and say, I'm going to write my Beatle type song. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I just let it go because I've been playing so long. I got all this stuff in the back of my head. I feel like musicians, and I don't know if you feel this way, we kind of are kind of able to tap into this kind of universal thing, right? And if we
Yeah.
tap in a conduit, and somehow because we're artists, we can pick up on however you feel that day, whatever somebody said to you, whatever movie you watched, whatever stuff you had listened to. It's like in your subconscious, and when you hit that mic, if you aren't afraid to just let it flow, it actually comes out pretty good if you don't try to think about it too hard.
Yeah. I always tell people that it's like I'm kind of like a sponge, right? Everything that I go through, I experience, that I feel, is kind of just soaks in, soaks in, soaks out, and then when I'm creating it, it flows out. And whatever way, whatever form that comes out of, that's the form that it comes out of. Yeah, and that's exactly it. Just kind of just being that conduit, because music. I believe that music isn't just physical. I feel like music is spiritual. We
Yeah.
obviously it's frequency. So you know what I'm saying. And at the same time, you're also humans are intaking what you're putting out. So if you put a certain feeling, a human emotion, another human is gonna feel that emotion, even if they can't relate to where you're from, even if they can't relate to your experience. They're gonna feel that energy. They're gonna feel that emotion because we're human beings. And I feel like the most successful artists are the people who master that, or masters of kind of like producing that emotion or invoking emotions. And you know what I'm saying? I feel like if you look at the top artists, they were the masters of that. Like they had that down pat. They can make you feel
Yeah.
anything they wanted you to feel. Like,
I think that's the point of being a writer. When you're a singer songwriter, you're a producer, and you're not just taking
yeah,
something that somebody gave it to you. Part of the passion about people who are singer songwriter producers is that a lot of it is like heartfelt. And
yeah,
you're a screenplay writer, you're like a novelist, you're a storyteller. And when you think about the really good music and the people who are like the top of their game, it's the fact that it's universal. Multiple people can get it because you're
mhm,
tapping into that human thing, right?
yeah,
And that human thing, it will cross. And if you're honest with yourself and you put it out from that singer-songwriter honesty, and you're not just, oh, I'm just trying to make a banger, that's fine. But it's really the person that's putting their heart and soul into it, and somebody can actually put that mental picture and they feel it because you tapped into something everybody understands.
Yeah. Because you got people that's making music for human beings. I think the most phrase I hate in music is when people say they're making music for like a object. For example, you got a lot of rappers that say, oh, this one for the club, this one for the streets, this is for the festivals, this is for the arenas. It's like you're making music for an object. Humans are the people that's gonna actually listen to it. Humans
the
are
audience.
the clubs filled with people, the festivals are filled with people. Out, the theaters when people go watch movies, it's not for the theater, it's the people that's in the seats. They're the ones that's gonna feel it, like, so that's one thing that always kind of throws me off. And I think that's that mindset of people that come and try to make bangers or try to make the perfect song, and the perfect song
Then they end up cloning. Exactly. Well, I play Moogs, I play Rolands, I play Yamahas, and people are looking at me and say, why are you doing that? This sample. I'm like, well, I'm a keyboardist. So I'm actually going to write it, and I'm actually going to play it. And the people are like, whoa, that's old. That's old school. It's like, yeah, but it works. But it's a different type of art. And I understand not everybody today knows how to do that. Not everybody learns guitar. Nobody learns bass or drums anymore. But like, I came from the time, if you're a musician, that's what you did. Right?
Exactly. But and I guarantee you, those same artists, when they go into a space or certain venues, they're gonna seek out these people. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what, the master of your art, you're gonna be. If you become a certain person in your art, you're gonna be a sought out person. It doesn't matter what you do, because if I go and do a certain venue that's in a different type of environment, I'm seeking out a live band. I'm not coming up there with a track. I want a band behind me. You know what I'm saying? That just goes to show, because I feel like that flows with my art a little bit better in certain spaces versus just having a live track and performing off that. I love performing with a band.
Yeah, because I think that's the whole thing about, like African American music has always been that kind of feeling, even going back to the church and you had the organist.
Yeah.
Or you go back into Mississippi and everybody had tambourines and people had drums, and you go to those churches and there's a whole band, bass players, guitar players, everybody's playing something. And they didn't go to Berkeley, they just know how to play.
Exactly.
And that's my whole thing. My whole background. My grandpa was Morgantown, West Virginia. He could just pick up a banjo and he'd play. And I just picked up my keyboard because he picked up a banjo, he picked up like a bass, he could just do it. And he was a coal miner. He's like, I like the music. And so I said, I'm going to go get a banjo. I'm going to learn it. And he just did it. And he never went to class. It was kind of like, it just seems like we African Americans don't want to put people down. We seem to have a natural capability to not have to think about, oh, I can't do it. We want to do it and we just do it.
It's definitely deeply rooted within, especially when it comes to music. It's like a deep rooted. And it seems like even if we can't do it, we know how it's supposed to sound. Like we kind of got an innate sound.
Well, you get a James Brown. Like James Brown couldn't play an instrument, but if you listen to the tapes, he's actually telling the bass player with his voice what to play. He's telling the drummer, he'd go. I have tapes of him telling the drummer what to play, and he actually had it. He actually wrote it. He just voiced it out. And Michael Jackson was famous for that. He would voice out to the musicians around him.
I did. I seen that a couple of times where he was.
And James Brown used to do that. And I think Michael actually knew about how James used to do it. And he was kind of cloning what James did. But we've been famous for years. Tons of even Marvin Gaye. People don't even know he was a drummer before he was a singer. He was a drummer, and he just found it. Well, his voice was better than his drumming. But both guys were multiple. They had multiple capabilities. They could do all kinds of stuff, and they just pushed it. And I always looked at it, the whole Biography organization as like the ultimate collective at the time. They just put it down. They do business, but it was soul with business. So it shows you can have that kind of soul and heart and run a business, which I think is what you're trying to do with your collective.
Yeah, for sure. Because you got multi-talented people, and it's using those people in the best way that they express themselves. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a person that's good with business, I always tell this is what I always tell independent artists that I meet. Um, Instead of looking like I hear a lot of independent artists say, I want a manager, I need a manager. And I'm like, what is a manager? What does a manager do? They can't even tell you. And I'm like, okay, instead of seeking out these people that you look at a certain manager, why don't you get the homie that you know is good with business, or the homie that you know it can write up stuff in a professional way, or your mother, or you know, just that person, but actually that has the care in your best interest. Because what's going to happen is you seek out these industry managers. They don't give a flip about you. They just
No,
looking what they can
they'll
make
take
from you. They
90%
don't
and
have your
give you
best
10.
interest.
Yeah,
Yeah, nah,
they'll talk a lot of stuff, and if you don't read it, they took 90 and you got 10.
exactly.
You
And
know?
that's as you know, that's the story for a lot of artists.
Yeah,
A
like a
lot of
lot of
artists.
old school artists, they got
Man,
tricked. They even said like the Beatles got tricked, you know, and
yeah.
their merch deal was like terrible. Um,
Man,
into the 70s, they didn't get it better until like 1970, and they were running since like 66. So
it's
so from
crazy.
66 to 70, they had like the worst deal ever. And I just read a lot of music history as a buff, and
Yeah.
I just see, you know, Hendrix got totally ripped. He
Oh
used to
yeah.
sign he used to sign every contract he could to get to play because he just
Yeah.
wanted to play. He was like a
That's it.
pure musician. All he ever wanted to do was play. So he signed anything anybody give him. And so what happened when he died? They found all these contracts. It's like all these people had the money, and nobody in his family had the money for years because he just
Exactly.
signed like so many things. It's like everybody else owned it.
And that sucks, man. And it's just like it just goes to show. There's also some successful people, and that's kind of what I look at too. I look at the failures and the successes, and every time when I look at the people, the artists that were successful business as well as in the artistry, they had people with them that were kind of like the grounded ones that was like had their best interest in mind. So I'm like, okay, this got to be important. You know what I'm saying when it comes down to it. So it's important to have those people like a wise man told me, just if it's something that you can't do or something that you don't do as well, find somebody around you that does it well and
And
trust them.
somebody that
I
can
think,
do it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and I think that's the hardest part as an artist, just simply putting your trust in a person, putting your art into the hands of somebody that's not you, and trusting that they have the best interest. I will definitely admit, especially in the beginning, that was tough for me as an artist. I wanted to do everything in the beginning. I wanted to mix it, I wanted to produce it,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like I noticed, like, okay, this is taken away from the part of the creativity that I actually love to do. So if I can find people around me that can do that and they do it better than me, I can focus more on what I love to do, and that's
Yeah,
just
'cause I mean,
writing and
recording
recording.
engineering
And yeah,
engineering is like as an art, and like if
it's
you at the
exactly.
beginning, if you don't have the means, and you can try to do it yourself. As you
Yeah,
get better and you get more access to resources, you'll
yeah.
discover like it's probably a good idea that like this guy that went to Berkeley that knows how to run the board.
Exactly, and it ain't taken away from you knowing. It's important to know too, because you should know how it's
Good to
supposed
know
to
how to do
sound.
it.
At least the
Yeah, yeah,
basics of what it should at least sound like when it comes out. When they say this is the finished product, you can at
yeah.
least listen to it and be like, and that ain't it. Or you can, like I said, it's art. So sometimes the way you have it in your head, the engineer is just gonna go by what they technically know is correct. And sometimes you may have a different way of going about it. So knowing that thing, you can easily just tell them like, listen, I actually want this to sound like this and this to
Yeah,
sound more like
that's
that.
kind of like the big thing that Hendrix had to prove that was real. If you're very innovative, the
Yeah.
problem is that those engineers will actually not let you do it, right? So
Yeah.
the history was like Hendrix had all that feedback, all that noise. People said, "Well, we're going to EQ all that out. That's not good." And he actually stood up and said, "No, this is what it's supposed to sound like. I don't care if you don't want feedback. I don't care that you don't want these pedals coming on the track. That's what the track's going to be." And he had to like force it. And so he
Yeah.
actually forced a lot of techniques that guitar players up to this day use in recording engineering that he actually, as the artist, had to fight for it. So I would always tell people, if you're doing something very experimental, don't be afraid to challenge an engineer, because
Yeah.
like, you might have a sound that they don't think is correct. But if it's new,
Exactly.
it's they never heard it before, so like
It's
of course
it's
they
it's
won't
not
know it.
gonna be a blueprint for it. There's no
Yeah,
technical way to or correct way to mix and master this. It's a new thing. I mean, you look in the past couple of years, you look at auto tune. Auto tune was not I mean, it was there, it was a thing, but in the way that it's used today, it was not used because technically it's not being used correctly as what it's supposed to be or what it's created for. But nowadays it's kind of like almost this, it almost become the standard in hip hop. But when
Yeah.
T-Pain first came out, he was getting fried. Like it was like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you got going on, bro? What is this? And now it's like literally this thing. Now you have engineer classes on how to mix autotune. Like he was already like doing it his own way. He was mixing it and doing it his own literal way, and people kept telling him that's not correct. That's
Well,
not
you
traditional.
think about it, like Prince was challenged by Warner Brothers all the time. Like, so Dirty Mind basically complained it sounded like a demo because it's very raw and it doesn't have a lot of overdubs. And he gave it to me, he said, "That's it." And they're like, "It ain't done." And he said, "Yeah, it's done. That's what it is." And he was always challenging them because that was technically the engineer said, "Well, this thing is just a demo. It's not done." And he forced them to put it out. And then that was kind of like the first one he got like all this attention. And then when Doves Cry, it didn't have a bass line. And Warner's came at him again and said, "There's no bass line on this track. You can't put it out."
Yeah.
And he said, "That's where it's supposed to be." And how big is that track? He went against what all the rules are. You know, Kiss is the same way. They said that was a demo. And he said, "We shouldn't put it out that way." And he used to fight. And so this is where like sometimes as an artist, you do have to fight.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You definitely, especially when you're innovative, you're doing that's never been done. I mean, it's not gonna be the easiest thing to get people to actually want to put out for you. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. And I noticed even with myself, it's hard. It was hard for me finding engineers in the beginning because I'm in the South. The sound here is trap. Everybody wants to mix my record like a trap record, and I'm like, nah, that's not how I want my record to sound. I want it. It's different. I don't want you to mix it like a trap record. Like it's cool. I'm from that element, so you can add some of the elements in the mix, and I'm not mad at that. But like just how you would mix a typical trap artist, you're not gonna be able to mix me the same way. You know what I'm saying? I feel like my voice is a certain way. You can't mix my voice the same way you can mix every other person. We don't project our voice the same. We don't rap the same. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So that was things that I had to constantly fight for and find the right people to build the sound off of. So yeah, no, I understand. It's
well,
definitely about
one thing I always like to tell people is like if you're a producer, one level of advice I have is like if you get a demo from your artist, you should try to do everything you can to make that demo sound like the best version of them. Don't go and turn them into you. Like if somebody comes to me, I don't want to turn them into Phantom Electric Ghost. And they might come to me thinking they want to sound like me. And the first thing I would do is I don't want you to sound like me. I want you to sound like the best version of you. So I'm going to make your vocals sound better and your drums sound better and everything sound better than what it sounds like, but it's still going to sound pretty close to what your demo was. It's just going to sound like 100 times better because we're going to do stuff to make it sound better. But we still want it to be you. We don't want to go clone somebody else or even clone me. That's not what I don't want to do that.
Producers, please listen. he knows that's literally it. Like, oh, if I could say my biggest pet peeve when dealing with producers and engineers is dealing with producers and engineers who are also artists and they want you to sound like them, or if not, they want you to sound like the music that they like. You know what I'm saying? And that's so aggravating because I hate when I have a record that's not necessarily the genre that you listen to, but you don't put the effort in it because it's not what you listen to. And it's like, I can tell when you put an effort in because you didn't mix this record or you didn't produce this record the same way you produce this record. You produce this because you actually like that genre, or you like the way that type of music is, or you're an artist and you do that type of music. And you didn't give the same attention to this. It's man, oh man, you said a mouthful right there.
Yeah, I mean, I always just looked at a bunch of master type of old school like guys who are like Brian Eno, work with Bowie. You know, some of the guys like that work with the band, some people that work with the Who and Zeppelin. And a lot of times they would like, you know, they had these producers that would let the band be what they were and not try to turn them into something else. And that's why they sounded like the Who sounds like they do. They don't sound like somebody else. They sound like the Who. Zeppelin sounds like Zeppelin because they didn't try to make them sound like the Beatles, right? They actually let them be who they were. And this is where a lesson with some producers today are going around to making multiple bands sound like in the same zone. And you don't have the difference between the Stones and the Beatles and Zepp. There's big differences. They don't sound the same. Pink Floyd, they don't sound the same. It's like, why?
Exactly.
Because people paid attention to actually keep the character of that band.
Yeah. And I would definitely say having as much connectivity as people that we have is a blessing. But I will say in the process of the creation, that's definitely a curse because we exposed to so much. It's so easy to kind of like everybody wants to sound the same. And that's why so many artists do sound the same, because it's like before, you kind of like sounded like what you grew up around, what what I'm saying, your environment. You literally sounded like your environment. Now it's so much connectivity.
Yeah, you don't.
Everybody
It's not like
sounds like,
Delta Blues. Like Delta Blues is Delta Blues, right? So you went down to the Delta; those bands sound that way. You go to
and you can
Louisiana,
only go to them to hear Delta Blues. Like
yeah. You
you
go to
wanted that
Austin.
sound,
You go
you
to
had to
Austin, they sound just like that, right? Go to Detroit.
exactly.
Detroit rockers sound totally different than anybody else, right? They had like MC5 coming out of Detroit. You had all these bands that are like very punk, very heavy metal. They don't sound like anybody else. It's like
Yeah,
Detroit had this vibe, created very unique bands, and
yeah,
and,
for
and it's
sure.
like that all over the country. There were certain zones that you had certain styles coming out of. New York,
Yeah,
CBGB style. Like you get the Talking Heads and Blondie, and the Ramones. They were all coming out of that same club, but they don't even sound the same.
exactly.
Like, you're dealing with Blondie, Talking Heads, Ramones. Do they sound the same? They're in the same scene. They
Yeah,
don't even sound the same at all. you know.
that was so dope, man. That's what I love about it, and I feel like that is what I hate about music today. Is the most of like the similar sound. But like I said, it's not for everybody. It's definitely a lot of unique sounds out there. It's definitely a lot of, it's
Well,
not
yeah.
taken from the whole last. But I would say, if I could say like a gripe about it as what the current state is, that's what I dislike about it.
That's why I like talking to emerging and like independent, because I try to draw attention,
Yeah,
because there's so much in, like, if you listen to the top 100, then you get what that is, right? I
yeah,
like talking to emerging independent artists all over the world. That's what I do. And what I'd like to do is I like to draw attention to people who are actually kind of trailblazing stuff that I find interesting. Because
yeah,
as a fan since I was 17, I'm 55, I got a massive collection. I listen to everything, no matter what genre. And anybody who's kicking, I don't really care what style it is. If they're kicking, I want to hear it. And it's usually
exactly.
not something that's in the top 20.
I feel you. I feel
It's
you.
usually something that I find interesting. It's coming up. That's what I want people to listen to. That's why I try to draw attention to artists like yourself and One Drew and everybody that's like in your collective. Is like, I think people need to really don't just go looking for the obvious. Go to your SoundClouds, go to the Mix Clouds, go find the stuff out there that's different. You know.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And I know me, that's what I drew my inspirations from. My inspiration came from mainly underground. So it always kind of puzzles me, in rap. They always give you, what's the top 10? What's your top 10? I'm like, to be honest, bro, if I gave you my real top 10, you probably know like 5 of them. Like for real.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you 5 underground
Underground.
rappers and you'd be
It's
like, who is that? Like,
You're on
but they were my
SoundCloud now.
inspirations.
You don't
Like,
know them because they just got SoundCloud. They're like, because SoundCloud, like, that's where people start off, or
yeah,
they're on, like, they do a TikTok or they do a YouTube, and they're off in some other zone. They're on Mixcloud or something. That's
yeah,
where
for
people
sure.
start, and then like suddenly they get blown up, and then they hit the label or they hit the major. But it's like I like to pay attention to what's going on, like in that underground scene.
Yeah, same.
Because
I remember
how
me
did you?
growing up, I was always the person that heard the music like sometimes even years before everybody else. And then like the radio gets it. I'm like, oh, that's old. I
That's
was been
old
on that
shit.
song. Like, or
I was in the
because
college
I was
radio.
tuned in the underground so much. Like
Yeah.
I knew what was gonna be hot. I can listen to it and be like, oh, that right there is gonna be hot. And then literally either some months or a year later, it boom, everybody's on it. And it's old, it's like it's almost old to me at that point. Like now I'm tired of hearing it. I'm like, I'm sick of hearing this song now. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause when I was in college, I did a college radio station at my school, and all I did was like college radio stuff people didn't know. Like I was playing REM before people knew who they were. I was
Yeah.
playing like the Replacements. I was playing all this stuff. I was playing like hip hop bands that people didn't know, like
Yeah.
DJ stuff people didn't know it. And I said, What's that Jones playing? Why is he playing all this stuff?" And it's like because like it's like your show is weird. I said, "Well, that's good. I'm glad you think it's weird."
Yeah.
Because that was a compliment to me because like if I because I wanted to do different stuff. So one day I'll be playing jazz, next day I'm playing punk, then I'm playing hip hop. I say, what were you trying to do? I'm like, well, I'm trying to do everything.
Yeah, trying to do it all.
You know,
Sure.
but I think that's like the whole idea of expansive sound and genre bending and just being yourself and just letting the creative energies flow. I mean, that's what I'm all about. That's why I like having fun. Um, yeah, it's very very cool to have you here. And I
Thank
just
you.
maybe to tell people like, what are you guys working on that you want to tell people that's coming out or
Yeah.
tours, anything you guys doing right now? You want to let people know about?
So me myself, we recently released a single. Well, I won't say me myself. Me and One Drew recently released a single, and it's called Limited Resources. The idea behind Limited Resources, our manager kind of gave a task to us to create this song, and we had 20 minutes to write the song. It was on a random beat. We didn't hear the beat beforehand, so we had 20 minutes to write the song. She also gave us random words, so we had 20 minutes to create this song with this random words, and then 20 minutes to record it, and then 20 minutes to shoot it. So Niecy J had to shoot the video within the 20 minutes, and it came out dope. And it's entitled Limited Resources. That's available now. It's also the video is available on my YouTube as well. I recently put out an EP entitled Beautiful Pain. It's a 4-piece, and that's pretty much just kind of the self-explanatory. Is talking about the process that's painful, but at the same time beautiful, and it's necessary. And that's kind of like me describing my life through that process. So definitely check that out, that 4-piece project. One Drew just released a single entitled Mission. It's a dope song. We've been kind of begging him to drop that for forever, and I'm glad he finally released it. He just released it Friday, so definitely go check that out. He also has an EP dropping October the 7th entitled Bel Air Drive, which is gonna be like his it's a highly anticipated EP. So I'm excited for that as well. So definitely we got plenty of music out there. You can search me on It's Ashton Martin on all platforms, all musical platforms. Definitely dive into the catalog, check it out, and definitely stay tuned. We got some dope work coming. Anybody that's ever interested in like really keeping up, because I know social media can be weird sometimes, and it's easy to miss everything that's going on. We have a text message service called the AME Guest List. All you have to do is text AME to 850-754-1956. And it keeps you updated, literally anything AME that's going on, any new music, any new drops, anything that we have going on. So
That's cool.
definitely,
I need to look
yeah.
into that. I need to look into what you did there. I need to check that out.
Yeah, hey, we'll connect with me. I'll definitely let you know. I love sharing that because that's one of the biggest things I'll say. Recently, marketing wise, that was like
That
one of the
works. You
success.
think it works good?
Yeah,
Because people like they'll skip the email, and like email doesn't.
yeah,
Email
yeah.
marketing is kind of like I don't know why I would pay for that because most people just throw it to the junk, and I don't know where it goes. I don't think you're going to get that much engagement.
You
But the
don't.
text, that seems like you could get more engagement.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right to your phone, and then you got people that's like really not on. So even if they may have social media, then they're not on social media like that.
Yeah,
And I think with me, what happened was I got too many of those. Like, oh, I didn't know you released this. Oh, I didn't know you dropped this. Like, I was waiting for this. So you know what I'm saying. So it got aggravating. So I'm like, man, it's got to be a better way to doing this and like actually getting direct to the people that rock with what we're doing and actually serving them directly in a more personal way. And I actually know a couple artists that I listen to that I like that started it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty dope. It's pretty personable, and I like the way it is. And especially for artists that have like a more of a core fan base, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
people that like really are like kind of like you, that they rock and support everything that you do. You got a way to let them know exactly what you got going on, you know what I'm saying, and keep them update, without
Yeah,
just
yeah. Well,
having to
that's how
broadcast it everywhere else.
everybody's with their phone and they can get that right away. And
Yeah,
they're not always logged into the social media. So I do think that's awesome. So I do
yeah,
appreciate and thank you for being on the show. Everybody check out the fact we've had your link on here all day. And so everything you were
sure.
talking about, they can get from your link tree too. Can they get
Yeah, yeah,
there?
yeah, for sure. You can tap into the link tree. It's all there. Everything is full circle. So definitely, man, I would encourage everybody to tap in and see how you feel about it. And I would also like to hear how you feel about it as well. That's what means the most to me as an artist. And I appreciate you having me as well, man. it's been dope, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, because we're always into it. Like, we are trying to set up that PEG festival, so let us know. We might, we're thinking we're going to slide it into 2023, because we already did one this year. So
Okay.
we're probably going to try to shoot for February again, because that's when we did it last time. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. And eventually we are trying to actually do it. So we would actually do it in New York as a live thing. Once COVID is in a situation where we can do it, and we'd have actually multiple venues that we engage multiple bands for like an online festival that would actually have a physical location for people to watch the band, and it would still get streamed. So we're working on that.
That's dope. That's dope, man. Let us know. We'll hit the road. We will for sure. We have no problems hitting that road. That's one thing about us. Like,
we'll be in touch, because we're working towards something like that. So thank you very much, everybody. Check out Ashton Martin. Go to the link. It's going to be clickable once we publish on Spotify video podcast within the next hour. And thank you again for being on the show. Make sure you support Ashton Martin anywhere you can subscribe, anywhere you can like. Make sure you actually, playlist, like the song, actually click it, download it. Anywhere you do this, that's how artists get credit. So make sure you do that. Thank you very much for being on the program.
Peace, love.